feel like most people nowadays are either burning out, have burned out, are close to a breaking point, or just doing their best to trudge along. Is it because we're so obsessed with going faster and growing endlessly? Is it because we're so connected and informed about all the things that are happening around the world? Or is it because we're feeling lost or simply overworked? Why is it only now that we're discussing 4-day work weeks? We've progressed significantly with technology, but here we are, still more exhausted and feeling exploited. Well, I've certainly been there, and I think I'm still not entirely out of the woods yet, but I wanted to share my journey back to myself, getting my health and energy back, and finally figuring out how to beat chronic fatigue in case someone out there, in case you are going through something similar, because honestly, I don't wish anyone to go through what I went through, not even the meanest person I could think of. So I want to begin with a little story. In 2017, I hit a really low point of my life. I'm sure that many of you have had low points where you think about a certain time or year and that's when it was all so bad. And when it rains, it really pours. For me, it was a combination of things. At my workplace, I was being harassed by my manager for 8 months straight. She knew that I didn't have a flexible working visa, so I couldn't just leave the company. At the same time, I started a side job and I got physically injured. I was trying to find my way out, right? Then I found out that my partner of 5 years was cheating on me, and well, I had to leave the apartment, so I was jobless, homeless, injured, mentally really low, and well, my visa was at stake, so I had to essentially find a job within a few days or pack up my bags and leave. Fast forward, I started a new job in 2018 and I finally found my first apartment all to myself. Well, it was a rental, but still, it was mine and my own. And I started this new job, so it opened up opportunities. I got to travel so many places around the world because of this job. I went to China, South Korea, Japan, to Spain, to Greece. It was phenomenal, and I had the opportunity to experience a lot of growth, very fast growth. And so I was on this high, and I was happy for once, right? I was looking forward to growing myself, to pushing myself. So I traveled a lot more than just the job could allow me to travel. I pushed for my career growth. I pushed myself even in my personal life. So if I'm going to bed at night, can I optimize my sleep? Can I sleep better? Can I sleep earlier? Can I eat better? Everything was about getting better, going faster, growing, going higher, right? Because I came from a really low point. So of course I wanted to pick myself up. And of course all of those experiences gave me a lot of confidence, and they shaped me into the person that I am now. But what I didn't realize was that I was throwing my health away for 4 years. I eventually realized that my employer, they didn't really care about me, and in fact, through microaggressions and just little things that you notice over time, that they in fact wanted me gone, but instead of doing it in a nice way, well, there are subtle ways of, just not being nice to people. So I have to leave because I learned my lesson from before. The pandemic started and my visa expired. My father had a heart attack. I couldn't go home because there was a 14-day mandatory quarantine. so many things. So everything came crashing down once more. Um, yeah, sure, I got sick a lot in the past couple of years, but I finally got to a point where I got so sick I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk for a whole month, which of course made my mental health even worse. And it took me another 3 months to relearn how to walk. So I knew it was time to leave. Um, Nothing is worth losing our health over. Absolutely nothing. So I left. It took me a while to find a new job, which was, of course, also really hard because you feel like you're stuck to a place and you just want to leave. You want to do good things, but you can't. So you gotta wait because, well, for some of us, we can't just quit. I don't come from money, so quitting is a really hard thing to do. It's something that I still have to learn when to quit. Sometimes quitting is the right thing or the best thing that we can do, but again, I come from a place where we don't quit. So I pushed and pushed. So I started the new job and my manager is amazing, my team is amazing, everything is great and positive. But my health was not. I was just constantly tired from the past years of pushing, of fighting, of surviving, of growing myself endlessly without rest. Everything was just too fast, too soon. I had been dealing with fatigue for years and I didn't understand why. Some days I would sleep 12 hours every day for a week, and I still need a 3-hour nap in the afternoon. I was eating 3 meals a day. I was sleeping so much. I, I wasn't really exercising, so why am I so tired? I didn't understand. And not understanding caused me a lot more stress, right? So I went to doctors, many doctors, getting blood tests for nutritional deficiencies, hormonal problems, whatnot. All my blood results came with flying colors, which was great. But I still didn't understand why I was so tired. And that broke me a little because why don't I have the energy? There are many different resources online for burnout and identifying it, but the one that I really like is here on Instagram. The author talks about the 12 different stages of burnout, and towards the end, it talks about depersonalization. So you do not feel like yourself. You feel empty, numb, you feel depressed, lost, and exhausted. And then at the last stage, you've mentally and physically collapsed, full burnout. Sometimes we're stuck in a stage for years and years. Sometimes we dance between stages, nothing is ever linear. But what I can say is the causes of burnout are extremely personal. I'm sure you have your reasons. I'm sure you have your own struggles, and sometimes we just don't have a security blanket or an easy way out or a safety net of sorts. You know, that feeling of when you go on a vacation and then boom, on that trip, you get sick. The letdown, they call that the letdown effect. It's like your body knows, like, oh, we can relax now. So let's get sick. That's what happened to me, but it happened over 8 months. I was getting different infections, once a month or twice a month, back to back, no end, chronic fatigue, no answers, no understanding. Blood test, still perfect. I didn't understand. It took talking to people, different people, to realize that many people around me have experienced what they call a burnout. But that's what it was. I burned out. There was no physical explanation as to why I was getting sick all the time. But here I was getting sick nonstop. tired consistently. It was a burnout. So if sometimes some things we can't understand, we can't prove through blood work. We think that we've got it all, but something in here, something from the past, something that we carry in our hearts, something we haven't learned to let go of, and also the way we live, the way we push ourselves to always be better, faster, grow bigger. I didn't think that rest was regenerative. Sure, I slept so many hours, but it was a different kind of rest that I needed. Resting my mind, resting my heart, resting my soul, my senses, my sensories. Because putting Spotify on for hours on end, it was just a pacifier. I was in this constant loop of pushing, going forward faster, getting better, and then crashing, getting sick, feeling bad about it, recovering, and then compensating for all the time that I lost not achieving things because I was tired or sick and I was mad at myself. So I pushed again in this constant cycle that I realized I needed to break that cycle. Now I live a much slower life and I ironically feel more energetic and more productive. I stopped seeing people for a while. I stopped doing a lot of the things that were part of my everyday life, cutting back on a lot of things, on routines and on plans, whether it's travel plans or socialization plans. Instead of seeing friends 4 times a week, maybe only once a week. Even fitness plans. I cut back on exercising days and I understand the consequences of that in the short term as well. But I really needed to make the space to slow down for my mind and my body to catch up on rest. Everything was just slow, in slow motion. But I want to clarify that living slowly doesn't mean not being productive at all. It's going at a pace where there's more intention in doing the things that we want to do. So for me, in my case, I needed to slow down a lot before I can continue a better pace, a slower pace than before. I needed to pause and take a break. In the long term, I thought about, okay, slowing down means that I have to give up some things. So I'm giving up half friends or investing in people who don't want to put in the same effort or don't care as much, and then feeling resentful towards them over time. So I'm giving that up. I'm giving up thinking about too many things ahead in the future, and as well as extreme travel plans. Freeing up certain time in my life, I'm able to exercise the ones that I do care about with more caution, but also calmness and more relaxed state of mind. But how do we live slowly when the world around us is still moving so fast? Everything is continuing as business. Trains are running at the same time. Expectations at the workplace is running as fast-paced as it has to, and even if we want to slow down the world, we can't. So how do we slow down in such a fast-paced world? I think that most of it is actually here. So in my case, I had to slow down the way I process things. So processing expectations, right? Sometimes in my head, oh, I have to do this and this and this and this, and I'm getting ahead of myself. And slowing down mentally meant that I am here at this moment and I only need to think about this situation, problem, or call it, at this moment. So in a way, it's being more mindful. Living slower meant for me that I had more time to process the events that happened in my life, or certain thought patterns that I have been carrying along with me, biases or prejudices, or even behavioral patterns that I just simply needed to unlearn. And that's because I wasn't rushing into the next thing, into the next thing, into the next thing. Instead, I slow down, pause, and think about where I am right now. Slowing down also for me means that I have periods where I'm really just resting. Rest can be different for different types of people. In my case, I need a lot of quiet time and alone time to think about the things that I experienced throughout the day, or things that I've read in the news, or even just news from friends. I realized that I also had to change my mindset on growth. Endless growth isn't the goal, because there's no end to it. It's funny when I say it that way, but sometimes we get so caught up in the loop of just being better and going faster and stronger that we don't realize that, sometimes there is an end point. And perhaps in those little pauses, we find happiness. By knowing what I want in my life, I draw better boundaries, and by that I have to think, okay, if I don't say no to certain things or peoples or commitments, what is it that I wanted to say yes to that I'm giving up? So what is the cost, the opportunity cost of not saying no, right? And then that kind of fuels the whole, I need to move things, I need to move in a much faster pace again, because I don't have time to do the things that I want to do, because I did other things. I think boundaries are also part of being mindful, right? I know what I want in my life. I know what I want to achieve, the people that I want to spend my time with. I want to live a more meaningful life, or a more mindful life at the very least. I want to take moments of rest in mundane things like doing chores, instead of feeling like, oh, I have to do this because if it doesn't get done, then it's going to pile up. Just the thought of that is actually stressful, right? And because I care about the quality of the time that I spend on things and people, my experiences are richer. I take the time to talk to friends and to catch up with my loved ones, and I'm really there because I'm not rushing to the next thing. I don't have another appointment, so if they need to speak to me a little bit longer and we wanted to exchange more stories, so be it. And it's nice. So why does it feel like many of us have burned out or are burning out? I still don't have the answer. And while we can't quit or just simply stop and drop everything that makes us unhappy in life, or while we can't leave certain situations or places that make us feel so stuck and unhappy, resentful, and all those types of emotions, I think that slowing down can help us at least pace ourselves in a way that allows us to catch a breath, like swimming along in the sea and going up for some water. I hope that you'll be able to find moments of rest in the smallest things and most mundane tasks, whether it's getting a cup of coffee or holding a hot cup of tea, taking a bath in the evening, or simply doing your laundry, walking the dog. I hope these moments will allow you to slow your mind down at the very least, and help you realize that everything will be okay, one way or another. And don't forget to rest, because you deserve it. Thank you so much, and I wish you a calm and cozy evening.